So just bear with me because this is certainly an interesting topic that I wanted to, that, that's one of my favorite topics, this shir, this discussion. It's something very relevant, something that I think we can all learn from. And I'm looking forward to an interesting discussion with you. Any questions, any comments, any insights, anything anyone wants to say before we begin? Okay, if you feel like you want to share anything, let me know. Good morning, Monty. How are you? So good to see you. Welcome aboard. Okay, we're just going to check that we're actually live on. And as soon as we are, we'll begin. I'm going to ask everybody to mute. It just makes it easier here from a noise perspective. And yeah, just less disruptive. Let's just check. Okay, same story each time, the same person being unmuted. So let's just see what we can do. Sheila, you just want to see and make sure your thing is muted. Okay, thank you.
Rabbi,
yeah.
There are two views of you. The one is encroaching on the screen and the other one is separate. Still. Yeah. Can you come over to the right?
Do that.
Yeah. Okay, I still see it.
How do I fix that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Maybe you gotta get a double view of me today.
That's all right. I can take a double dose.
Okay, I'm just checking if we're online. If anybody on Facebook just wants to let us know if we're on, if you could see us on Facebook, just so I know if we're on and we're ready to roll. Just a minute, everybody. Good morning, Selwyn. Okay, so today's topic, how to like the person you love, and it looks like we are online. So we're just going to quickly make sure they said there's a privacy setting that's preventing some people from watching. Let's just fix that up. Okay. Is it better now? Thank you, Esther. Pardon? I'm just asking one of the people who are watching us online on the Facebook.
There's still a double view.
Yeah, you're still there.
I see. There is a double view. I'm not sure why that is. And I don't know what we could do. But if it's not disturbing anybody, then I would like to continue the shir. And if anybody knows how to fix this double view, please just let me know. And we'll try to figure out how to remove it. Okay, yes, because it is. Let's see what happens now. Is it still a double view?
Not just this.
No, not. You fixed it.
That's fixed.
Do you see me now?
Yeah.
No, we don't see you. We only see the picture.
No,
you want to see me or just the picture?
Yeah, we see the picture. It's fine.
Okay, thank you, Louis. What about the rest of you?
No, we don't see you at all.
You want to see me?
Yes.
Okay, so let me get the camera back on. How about now?
Now you're in the double view.
Okay, you have a choice. Either more of me or none of me.
Okay.
All right, both.
What can I do?
Both.
Nothing's perfect in this world. Okay, so let's talk.
It makes no difference, Rabbi.
Makes no difference.
As long as we can hear you.
Okay, fair enough. So here it goes. We just started our journey out of Egypt. And as we discussed many times, although God took us out of Egypt, we are in the process of taking Egypt out of ourselves. And so Hashem said to Moshe, when you take the people out of Egypt, you should serve God on this mountain. And and God revealed himself to Moshe at the burning bush at the foot of Mount Sinai. And God says to him, this is where you should take the people to. This is where you're going to serve Hashem. So it took 7 weeks from the time we left Egypt until we reached that mountain. And the people of Egypt, the people of Israel, the Jewish people, we departed Egypt on what day was it? 15th of Nisan, which is the first day of Pesach. And on the 6th of Sivan, which we are counting down towards now, we celebrate Shavuos as what we were counting towards. And that's when we assembled at the foot of Mount Sinai, we received the Torah from God. Now the Kabbalists explain that these 49 days that connect Pesach with Shavuos correspond to the 49 drives and traits of the human heart. Each day saw the refinement of one of these sefirot, bringing the people of Israel one step closer to their election as God's chosen people, to receiving the Torah, God's communication at Mount Sinai. And each year, what do we do from Pesach to Shavuos? We take the time and we retrace. We go back. We count the Omer, right? We're retracing that inner journey. And each day, it's not just about counting the days, but it's about making every single day count. So we start on the second night of Pesach. We started last week. And so far, we counted 9 days of Omer counting, right? Yesterday was number 9. Or rather, last night today. But what's interesting, you might notice, is a difference. In the first week, we just counted the days, right? Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. But now we started this double count. What's the double count about? Why are we counting both the days and the weeks? What I wanted to do today is to share some lessons about that I think are relevant, that I think we can learn from. Because as we know, this is a little bit of a dark period in our history. It's a time when we don't celebrate, we don't have weddings. Well, some still do until Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Some do after Lag BaOmer. The strictest don't have weddings between now and 3 days before Shavuos. And the most lenient are between Rosh Chodesh Iyar, which is next week, and Lag BaOmer. So 18 days. And for what reason? Everyone knows. To tell you the truth, before coronavirus, it didn't really make much sense to me. What's this all about? We say a pandemic killed 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva that died between Pesach and Shavuos. How could that happen? To tell you the truth, until last year, it was a little bit strange to me. I didn't necessarily understand how that was possible. But I think since coronavirus came, we have a good understanding of that. In this country, over 52,000 deaths so far, unfortunately, at least counted for, probably a lot more. They said there was an excess of over 100,000 deaths. Although coronavirus itself didn't kill all of them, but I think many people did die as a result of the virus, whether it was suicides or other unintended deaths. And of course, globally, it's nearly 3 million counted for, but many countries still don't have the accurate numbers. Whatever the case is, it's a time of semi-mourning. And the reason for that very simply is we're commemorating the passing of all these students. But what's strange about it is, if you think about it, what did Rabbi Akiva teach? Rabbi Akiva is famous for his teaching. It says in the Torah, we're going to read it in the Parsha in 2 weeks. The Hafta l'reyacha kamocha. Right, that's the verse in the Torah. What does it say? Ze kla gadol b'Torah. Rabbi Akiva taught this is the most fundamental principle of the entire Torah. So that's Rabbi Akiva's teaching. So what doesn't make sense to me is, if indeed all of us, if indeed like we said, that Rabbi Akiva is teaching us that, excuse my losing trace of what I wanted to say. If indeed Rabbi Akiva was trying to teach us that to love your fellow as yourself is the most important principle of the entire Torah, how is it possible that his own students were not scrupulous, were not careful, were not, that they died from a plague during this time? And what's interesting is that our sages tell us, what was this plague about? How did this plague affect them? Where did it come from? Well, sages tell us in the Talmud, this plague came because they did not respect one another. So that's the Gemara telling us why 24,000 students of Rabbi Akiva died during this time. Of course, although it's a sad time when Lag BaOmer comes, it's the day that one of his great students, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, passed away. And he said his day should be celebrated. So it's in fact one of the most celebratory days of the year. What do we do in Lag BaOmer? We light bonfires, we have celebrations, right? We dance, we sing, we celebrate, we rejoice. So what is this about? On the one hand, we're semi-mourning because of Rabbi Akiva's students dying during this time. But at the same time, we are somewhat celebratory when Lag BaOmer comes. And what does this have to do with Rabbi Akiva's famous teaching? I would think that if Rabbi Akiva taught this statement, to love your fellow as yourself, that his students, his disciples, would be the ones most to exemplify this teaching, that they would internalize the teaching, that if he was their teacher, what does it mean to be the student of a teacher? To internalize his teachings, to be molded by his influence. No? Anyone want to share what does it mean to be the student of a great teacher? How do you understand it? How do you be a student of a great teacher? What makes you the student of this teacher? Anyone? Anyone care to share?
To follow what he teaches, to live by what he.
Exactly. So if you follow what he teaches, and he teaches that to love your fellow as yourself is the most important verse of the whole Torah. So how is it that they of all people were so deficient in this area that they died in a plague, in a pandemic, because they lacked covered, they lacked respect for each other? So in order to understand that, in fact, those are the words of the Talmud. They did not have covered respect for each other. Let's understand the difference between love and respect, or loving and liking. In Hebrew, they are very similar. Kavod is to respect, and ahava is to love. Now, just to think about it. In life, there are certain people who you like and respect, but you don't necessarily love them, right? There are people you love, but you might not like them or respect them. Right? You have any relatives, you love them to bits. They're your relative, but still you feel a little bit that whatever it is, you lack respect, maybe because you know them so well. And then, of course, there are people that you love and you like, thank God. And then there are people, well, perhaps you just don't love them and don't like them either. So what's exactly the difference between loving and liking? That is our concern here. Let's try to understand this and thereby learn some lessons. I do apologize that today I have to conclude at 11. So if I don't articulate my points before then we'll continue this theme tomorrow. Tomorrow is Yom HaZikaron as well. So we'll try to do something in combination of both. But I think this is relevant. Where does love come from? Who do you love in life? Love often comes from our sameness, whereas liking comes from our differences. We love somebody who we have something to do with, right? We love our children. We love our spouse. We love our siblings. We love our parents because we have a very real, deep, inextricable connection with them. What about respect? What about liking? That's more related to our differences. So loving someone highlights, underscores the shared identity we have with them, while liking another person emphasizes their difference that we admire, that we respect. So, to think about it, there is love, and in some situations it might be repressed, might be very complicated. Even the hate, when it exists, is usually a result of a profound, deep love. And the depth of hate is always commensurate with the depth of the love. You know, somebody once said to me, there's no faribble like a family faribble. One of the seniors I know likes to tell me he has Alzheimer's. He forgot everything but the faribbles. You know, faribbles, the deeper the faribble means, usually the deeper the love was before. On the other hand, when I like somebody, it means that I appreciate their unique personality, their character traits, which make them unique, which is what I respect about them. When I don't like somebody because we're one, that's love. We like, we respect, we admire people who are different, who have something about their personality that enriches, that enhances our personality. So love overlooks differences. It turns a blind eye to distinctions. It ignores those elements which are dissimilar, maybe even opposite of each other. That's love. When people fall in love, they oftentimes ignore all the differences, right? They're flying high from their feeling that all of a sudden they have this newfound love, right? People get drunk on love because in love, people forget, they deny, maybe they repress the differences, the distinctions. Is that a good thing? What do you think? That's love. But respect, liking somebody, is rooted in the reality that people are different than each other. People are different. And we could complement one another. My brother's one with me on some level. I have no choice about that. Right? We came from the same mother, came from the same womb. We share genes. We have same dispositions, characteristics. We look similar, right? We saw each other running around in nappies at home. It's just the reality. I love my brothers. I don't know I'm sure they love me. Perhaps they don't necessarily respect me, right? Maybe there are parts of my character that need certain refinement, correction, rectification. Maybe someone might feel that whatever it might be about me, argumentative, contentious, difficult. You could have siblings who feel the other one's obnoxious, selfish, egocentric, whatever it might be. So while you love each other as family, you might have a hard time appreciating and respecting them. Probably the better you know them, the harder time you might have to actually respect them because you know their shortcomings. You know their problems, right? But you still love them, right? We're family after all. Even if that love is sometimes expressed in hate. Why do you hate them? Because you love them. Because you're so connected. Anyone ever thought about it that way? Love we oftentimes take for granted. It comes with the territory. Just like we take ourselves for granted, right? And sometimes we take our loved ones for granted. We're just so connected to each other. But liking somebody, respecting someone, that's not something that can be taken for granted. We appreciate the contribution that they make to our lives. It's not part of our birthright. It's not part of our chemistry. Love does not have to be earned. You want me to like you? That needs earned. That needs to be earned. That's something else. That's a different story. So this is really the idea I wanted to talk a little bit about, and perhaps we could discuss a little bit about Rabbi Akiva today, and maybe tomorrow we could take the lessons of the Sphira. You know, the Kotzker Rebbe, Rabbi Nachman Mendel of Kotsk, Morgenstern, he once said, if I am I think he said in Yiddish, Oy ich bin ich, weil du bist du. Und du bist du, weil ich bin ich nicht ich, und bist du nicht du. Aber ob ich bin ich, weil du bist du, und du bist du. No, sorry, aber ich bin ich, weil ich bin ich, und du bist du, weil du bist du. Jetzt, I'm forgetting the words. The point is, if I am I because you're you, and you're you because I am I, we're trying to impress each other. You know, they say, if a man opens the door of the car for a woman, either the woman's new or the car is new. But this is not about impressing others. In real life, we have to be true to ourselves. We have to be true to ourselves. So love is based on the idea that we're one, that we can be real, that we can be genuine. And in love, there's a vulnerability. Respect, I don't think needs any vulnerability. Respect is based on the idea that I am I, but you're you. I have the right to be me, and you have the right to be you. And of course, there have to be boundaries between us. Even in relationships, there are boundaries. And I think even in a marriage, it's not enough to have the love, which is unlimited. But I think there also have to be certain boundaries. And halacha actually necessitates certain boundaries in a marriage. There are certain times on, there are certain times off. There are certain times the love has nothing to do with intimacy. The love is purely based on the idea that there's true, genuine love in the relationship. It doesn't have to be based on anything else. So back to our question that we asked was, Rabbi Akiva taught this idea. To love your fellow as yourself is the most fundamental principle of the whole Torah. So the question we're asking is, how could his own students be the ones who are deficient in this area? We talk about this idea of love and relationships in the Haredi frum sector of society. It's a very different way that marriage even works. You ever meet couples? They're flying in love, high in their romance and affection, and yet you could find another day that all of a sudden there's no love. There's apathy, there's indifference, there's annoyance at each other. What happened? Same couple, same people, just like that. Yesterday they were Romeo and Juliet, now they're Stalin and Hitler. How does that happen? And perhaps you could say, and this goes to answer our question about the students of Rabbi Akiva, that maybe they loved each other, but they lacked in liking each other. They fell in love, but they didn't climb in respect. Their attraction to each other maybe swept them off their feet, lifted them from the earth to heaven. Right? They were blind to their individual personalities, to their flaws. That's fine. That's wonderful. That's love. It's wonderful when couples are intoxicated by that newfound love. But it's not enough to just have love. There needs to be respect within the framework of a relationship. So all of a sudden, they land, they sober up, the pressure of life sets in. They wake up and realize how different they are, how challenging it is for them to generate love, real, genuine love and closeness under these circumstances. And sadly, those marriages don't necessarily last. The Haredi religious Jewish approach to marriage is very different. It's one, and I don't even know why we're digressing and talking about marriage, because that's not really the idea of today's shir. But be it as it may, the idea is that there's a difference between love and liking. And I think that if you take the Haredi model for marriage, which is not perfect, but nevertheless, it is based on, I don't think there's necessarily love at first sight. How do you love somebody you don't know, you haven't met? But the idea is to grow in love, not to fall in love, but to grow in it. And I think real, genuine, that kind of love is one that also requires a lot of respect. Maybe that's why the divorce rate in the religious community is much less, not that it doesn't exist. And the truth is, it's increasing these days, probably with more outside influences, no doubt about that. But this is the idea of love. Even my kids, I have beautiful 2 kids just walked by here. All parents, we love our children, but there are times we don't necessarily respect or like their behavior, right? What do they say when the kids are little? We want to eat them up. And when they're a little bit older, we wonder why we didn't eat them up. I might love my child to death. I see my child as part of me. I'll do anything for my kid. But do I also respect my child? And that is a challenge, because our kids sometimes are not exactly the way we want them to be. And it's not easy to accept that, because our kids are independent people. They have their own way of seeing things and doing things, and they might not necessarily want to do things the way we want them to. Now, of course, we want what's best for our children, right? And because I love my child, I want the best for my child. Not always is this perfect. Sometimes the kid could be doing the right thing, but it's not right for me. Sometimes a child might choose a career that the parent doesn't necessarily approve of. But I think the parents should respect it. I think there's a big difference between grown children and little children, because when they're smaller, then it's our responsibility to guide them in the right direction. Whereas when they're older, we sometimes have to just learn to respect and appreciate their value as an independent person, albeit they're an extension of me. You know, I was recently reading about Abraham Lincoln. His autobiographer said that everyone he interviewed about him had the greatest admiration and respect of him, except for his mother. I have to figure out why. But someone who needs to be nurtured, we obviously raise the child in the right way, hopefully, and then they're going to make their own decisions. We also have to be there for them. Do I tune in and am I there for my child when they need me? Do I help them discover and uncover their own potential? It's interesting. I was recently reading the Hayom Yom, where it talks about the idea that just as wearing tefillin every day is a mitzvah for every Jewish male, it's also a mitzvah for every parent. That's not written in the Torah, but it's a concept that Chassidus tells us how important it is, that every day we should think about the education of our children. We should think about and contemplate how we're there for them. It's a very important aspect. And we're talking here about their spiritual well-being. What can we do to inspire our children to do the right things? So, what do you think about for 30 minutes every day? Children grow, they change, they fluctuate. I feel like I got married yesterday. We're making the bar mitzvah already less than 3 months' time. You're all invited. True education requires that daily meditation to think about what our child needs of us today, how we can help them to become the people that they are capable of becoming. How can we be there for them? What can we do? And it's interesting, we just came from the last days of Pesach, and the theme of the last days of Pesach, obviously Shvi, the 7th day of Pesach, we remember the incident that occurred on that day. We commemorate the splitting of the sea, right? That's Shvi Shel Pesach. But the last day of Pesach, although the first prior days of Pesach are celebrating the past history, the events that occurred in the past, that's what Pesach is. The final day is about the future, about the complete redemption. Although the Exodus, the redemption started for the Jewish people 3,333 years ago when we left Egypt, the culmination, the conclusion of that redemption only has not yet occurred. And so it's future oriented. What's interesting is we read the words of the great prophet Malachi, and he tells us today we live with the signs of Mashiach. How's that so? What signs of Mashiach do we have today? Well, the first days of Pesach, the mitzvah was V'yigadet Levincha. Moshe Rabbeinu tells us to teach your children. Tell your kids about what happened. Tell them about our history. Let them know they're the next chain, they're the next link in our unbroken chain of our glorious Jewish history. But it doesn't end there. The prophet Malachi says, Hinei anochi shaleach lachem. Behold, I am sending to you as Eliyahu Hanavi, the prophet Elijah, the harbinger of redemption. Lifnei ba yom Hashem hagadol v'hanara. Before this great day, the Heishiv Leiv Avos Abanim, and he will return the hearts of the parents upon the children. Heishiv Leiv Avos Abanim, V'leiv Banim Alavosam, which means that the children will be teaching and inspiring the parents. The youngsters, look at this, I'm 18, yet I'm teaching people a couple of years older than me. Okay, fine. If I'm 18, then you're only 21. Whatever the case is, the point is that it's youngsters who are teaching their children, their grandchildren, so their parents and their grandparents. I've seen people who started lighting Shabbos candles, who started getting involved. A while ago, one of the seniors told me in America, he said that in his family, his father came from the old country, and he used to refer to Shabbos as the Heilige Shabbos Kodesh. He says he got a little bit more modern, so he just said Shabbos Kodesh. Says kids luckily kept it as Shabbos, but his grandkids, they got Americanized, Sabbath. And he says it breaks his heart because his grandkids, they lost it completely. They just call it the day before Super Bowl Sunday. But today, we see the opposite happening. We see people who are the youngsters. I saw it at our Pesach retreat, where young children are inspiring the parents. Young children are getting more religiously involved. It's incredible. It's amazing to see this new resurgence, this new revival of Yiddishkeit. So children are indeed inspiring the parents. We have to give them that opportunity to believe in themselves so that they can inspire us too. I saw a vart of an atheist father tried convincing his kid, don't believe in all this rubbish. Right? He took his kids out of the Jewish school, put them in a Catholic school. First day, the kids' mathematics grades already improved. Said, what's the matter? Kid said, I was scared. I saw they stuck that kid up on the plus symbol. I knew they're serious here. One day the kid comes home telling his father all about Mother, the Father, the Holy Ghost, spirits, whatever, the Christian stuff. He grabs the kid by the shirt lapel. He says, listen here, boychik. I'm telling you once and for all, you better know this. There's only one God, and we don't believe in him. One day, the kid is still believing in God. So the father writes in a paper and puts it in the kid's room. God is nowhere. And the kid walks out with a big smile and says, Daddy, look at this. You just wrote God is now here. You're really coming around. So, my friends, it's time to conclude today's message. We didn't get too far. I had a lot more to talk about. But so far, we discussed the idea of the difference between liking and loving. Love versus respect and love versus liking. And we spoke about the difference between love has got to do with those who we have a common denominator, those who we have something in common with, a shared identity, we're one. Whereas liking and respect oftentimes highlights our differences. What makes one distinct, unique, special that we respect about them. How they complement us, perhaps. And tomorrow, please God, on Yom HaZikaron, I would like to commemorate and dedicate some time to those who we have to remember. And at the same time, I would like to talk a little bit more about what we can do to inculcate more love and liking and respect in the world, and how you could utilize this time during the Sfira to Omer counting to refine ourselves, that we don't just count the days, but we make the days count. What messages and lessons we can learn, what Sfira teaches us. The multiple meanings of the word Sfira. It means to shine. It means to tell. It means to count. Well, let's talk about that tomorrow, please God. Looking forward to see you all here. Seid gesund. Have a wonderful day and stay healthy and well. See you tomorrow. Please God, right here. Any questions before we go? Don't be so shy, my friends. See you soon.